Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into something pretty relevant to all of us. I mean, it's something we all see, even if we don't always realize it, the influence of adult content.
And it's not just about the content itself.
Right.
It's about how it shapes our views, especially for younger generations growing up with it everywhere.
Exactly, and that's what we're exploring today. We're using Gail Dines' Pornland as our guide.
Great book. Lots to unpack there.
For sure. We'll look at how adult content went mainstream and what that means for how young people see sex and relationships.
It's fascinating how Dines traces this whole thing back to magazines like Playboy, Penthouse, even Hustler.
Oh, yeah. Those were like the edgy pioneers back in the day.
They really set the stage for the industry as we know it now.
Speaking of Playboy, it's almost iconic. That bunny logo, you see it everywhere. But how did they take something so taboo and make it, well, almost mainstream?
That's where Hugh Hefner's marketing genius comes in. He presented Playboy as this sophisticated, aspirational lifestyle.
So it wasn't just about the images.
Right. Think silk pajamas, jazz music, intellectuals having deep conversations all alongside those images. It became a whole vibe,
However,
Totally tapped into the anxieties men had after World War II about masculinity and all that.
it wasn't just about men, though, right? Women were caught up in this cultural shift, too.
Absolutely. Back then, there was this whole cultural narrative that demonized wives.
Like they were the enemy.
Exactly. They were portrayed as controlling, emasculating. Playboy offered this escape from that. The Playboy was this guy who enjoyed beautiful women without the supposed chains of marriage.
It's like they created a whole new ideal for men to chase after.
And the magazine itself became the guidebook on how to achieve it.
What about the competition? Penthouse and Hustler were in the game, too, right? Where did they fit in?
Penthouse, started by Bob Guccione, tried to outdo Playboy with more explicit stuff and that European flair.
Okay, so upping the ante.
But it was Larry Flint's Hustler that really went for shock value. Raw, confrontational, pushing every boundary.
So you had Hefner being the refined gentleman and Flint being the rebel. But as Dines points out, they both normalized adult content in their own ways.
Exactly. Playboy made it classy, Hustler made it edgy, and together they desensitized people to increasingly explicit stuff.
And we're seeing that same pattern even today, right?
Yeah.
The constant push to be more extreme.
All the time. But this mainstreaming didn't stop with magazines. Think about figures like Joe Francis and Girls Gone Wild. They took it to another level.
Oh yeah, Girls Gone Wild was everywhere back then. Spring Break, MTV, commercials. It was like they were trying to pass it off as just harmless fun.
That was the whole strategy. Francis was brilliant at packaging adult content as youth culture, celebrity cameos, that party atmosphere, and the editing. It all created this illusion that everyone was in on it, having a good time.
And it worked, especially on young women.
It made it seem normal, maybe even empowering.
But looking back, it's obvious that Girls Gone Wild had a dark side.
Oh, absolutely. The way they filmed women, often without consent, it raises serious ethical questions. And what's scary is that this blurring between adult content and mainstream media is even worse now.
It really is everywhere. Music videos, fashion, even advertising. That softcore look is inescapable. It's like it's become the norm.
Right. And this brings us to what Dines calls grooming for gonzo.
Okay, I've heard that term, but what does it actually mean, especially for young people?
Well, psychologists use grooming to describe how abusers manipulate their victims.
Making them think the abuse is okay.
Exactly. Dines argues that adult content, especially the extreme stuff like gonzo, can act as a kind of cultural grooming.
Desensitizing us to it.
Yes, it distorts how we see healthy sexuality. It might even lead people to seek out even more extreme content.
It's like a slippery slope.
Exactly. Dines even talks about interviewing men in prison, guys who were convicted for downloading illegal content.
And they used adult content as a gateway to that.
Many of them did. It's a chilling reminder of how desensitization can lead down a very dark path.
It's terrifying to think about.
The more we see the exploitation of women as normal, the more likely we are to tolerate it in real life.
And it's not just a problem for men either, is it? Women internalize those messages too.
You're absolutely right. Women end up feeling pressured to conform to these unrealistic, harmful standards of beauty and sexuality. It's a mess.
So it's everywhere. It's messing with our heads. It feels kind of hopeless. Is there anything we can even do to fight back?
Dines believes it starts with each of us. making conscious choices about who we date.
People who don't buy into all of this?
Exactly, and teaching young people to be critical of the media they consume.
Not just accepting it at face value.
Right. We need comprehensive sex education too. Not just the biology, but real talk about consent and healthy relationships.
So arming ourselves with knowledge and having those tough conversations, that's a good start.
It is. Dines also stresses the importance of a collective movement, something bigger than just individuals.
To challenge the industry itself?
Exactly. Groups like Stop Porn Culture are doing incredible work, offering resources and education to counter all this negativity.
It's about taking back control.
Right.
Reclaiming our own narratives about what sex and relationships should be.
You got it. Defining what it means to be human in a world that's constantly trying to distort those very ideas. It's a big challenge, but it's a fight worth having.
I agree.
And it's not just about men taking responsibility.
Right. It's about men and women working together.
Yeah, to create a world where sexuality is celebrated in a healthy way, free from all the exploitation we see in the adult content industry.
Dines' book, it ends on such a powerful note. It's like a call to action for all of us.
It is, to fight back against how normal this imagery has become.
So how do we create that change? Where do we even begin?
Well, first, educate yourself. Read about it, watch documentaries, talk to people who know about this stuff.
Arm yourself with knowledge.
Exactly. The more you know, the better you can challenge the industry's influence.
And it's not just about reading,
Yeah.
right? It's about having those conversations, even when they're uncomfortable.
Exactly. Talk to your friends, your family, your partners. Share what you're learning, what you're concerned about.
Get those conversations going.
Yes. And support the organizations that are already fighting back. Donate, volunteer, spread the word.
There are groups out there doing amazing work, but they need help to keep going.
Absolutely. And think about how you're spending your money.
Be a conscious consumer.
Right. Support businesses and entertainment that align with your values.
Put your money where your morals are.
I like that. And most importantly, don't be afraid to speak up.
Challenge those harmful stereotypes even when it's hard.
Yeah, be that voice. Advocate for change. Every voice matters.
It can feel like a small voice, though.
Yeah.
Like one person can't make a difference.
I get that. But all those small voices together, they make a chorus. A chorus that gets louder and louder.
I think the adult content industry wants us to feel powerless, like nothing we do matters.
They want us to accept their version of reality.
But we don't have to. We can choose differently.
Absolutely. We can create a better world.
Dines asks this thought-provoking question. She says, in a world saturated with adult content, how do we reclaim our own stories?
How do we define what sex, relationships, and even what it means to be human?
That's a big question.
It is. And it takes courage and creativity, a willingness to challenge what we've always been told.
But the answers are out there.
We just have to find them.
We've spent this episode talking about ornland, about the industry, how it affects young people, and how we can fight back.
What's really struck me is that even though it's a complicated issue, there's hope.
There are people working to create change.
If you want to learn more, check out the Stop Porn Culture website. They have a lot of resources.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
Thanks for listening. Keep questioning, keep learning, keep fighting for a better world.
It's kind of crazy how all this ties back to the marketing stuff we talked about earlier.
You mean how the industry targets young people?
Yeah, it's not just the content itself, it's how they package and sell it, making it seem cool and normal.
They're really good at it, too. I mean, they use social media, celebrities, everything they can to make adult content appealing.
And they specifically target young people.
Oh, absolutely. They want to hook them early, make them think this is just part of growing up.
It's like they're trying to create a whole new generation of customers.
Exactly. That's why it's so important for young people to be media savvy.
Think critically about what they're seeing.
Right, and understand that this stuff can be really harmful. It's not about being a prude, it's about being informed.
Making smart choices.
Exactly.
It seems like a lot of Dines' work is about taking back power.
Power from the industry.
Yeah, for women especially, but for anyone who's been negatively affected by all of this. But how do we even do that? It feels like adult content is so ingrained in our culture.
It's tough, no doubt, but it starts with realizing we have more power than we think.
In what way?
We have the power to choose what we watch, what we support, what we believe. We can speak up, demand better.
It's like we need a whole new set of values around sex and relationships.
Exactly. Something that's not based on exploitation and objectification.
More about respect and connection.
Exactly. A culture where everyone feels empowered to explore their sexuality in a healthy way.
That's a vision worth fighting for. Dines' book is a real call to action.
It reminds us that we all have a part to play in making that happen.
It won't be easy though, right?
No, the industry's huge, lots of money behind it, but giving up isn't an option.
Stakes are too high.
They are. Our relationships, our self-esteem, it affects everything.
So keep talking about it, keep questioning, keep pushing for change.
We can create a world where sexuality is a positive thing.
A source of joy and connection, not exploitation and shame.
Well said. This wraps up our exploration of Pornland. We hope this has given you some things to think about.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
There are resources out there, people who care, and a movement for change that's growing every day.
So keep fighting the good fight. Let's build a better world together.